Hey everyone, this is Tyler from This One Goes to 11. Bet you thought that we were done for season 4, but we fortunately have a very special surprise episode for you because today I am recording from a secret location in the Mountain West region of the United States with a very special friend of the pod, my father, and all around best guy ever, Paul Esselman. Hi, Dad.
Hey, buddy. Hi, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's pretty sweet to be able to spend Father's Day with you.
I'm glad you're my kid.
I'm glad I'm your kid too.
Pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And we thought that since we knew my dad and I would be together on Father's Day this year, and it's just about 1 year on from when you were first on the podcast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just a few weeks, a year and a few weeks. And we were talking about one of our shared favorite bands, Foo Fighters, back then, Wasting Light. And it just so happens that Foo Fighters have a brand new album, don't they? So the new album is called But Here We Are. It's got a slick little white album cover. Dear listeners, what we thought we'd do is we'd just do a little brief check-in with you all, since we're gonna name my dad the resident Foo Fighters expert on our go-to guy about Foo Fighters. So we thought we'd do a little check-in, see what we thought about the album, talk a little bit about the context around it and how it's hitting us. So, Dad, what are your initial impressions about But Here We Are?
Well, I'm just excited that they came out with an album after all they went through a year and a half ago. I'm just excited that they came out, and I think it's perfect. I think there's a lot of messages in this album. Mm-hmm. I love the theme behind the album and to dive in deep, and so I think it's a great album to come back with. Yeah.
I guess I wasn't even so sure that how long it would be before they came out with a new one. What it would be if they would continue on as a band, to be honest.
Yeah, after Taylor passed away, I thought if I were Dave and the rest of the band, I don't know if I would be able to just get up and do what they do. It was so public, as time wore on, you started to hear more and more, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then they come out with this album. So I'm excited that they're back. And now that they're touring, I think the message is great. So I'm excited about it.
So what my dad's referring to there is the tragic passing of Taylor Hawkins, the longtime drummer. They're not, he wasn't the original guy for the band, but the longtime drummer and sort of the heart and soul, the first mate, if you will, to the Foo Fighters after Dave Grohl. He passed about a year and a half ago, a little bit more maybe. Maybe I was a little surprised by how much it rocked the music community. I guess I wasn't quite fully aware of just how influential he was in those circles. I mean, I'm not a musician. Neither of us really are musicians. So beginning to recognize the effect that he had on that band, his influence over their sound has been a journey all of its own.
Yeah, influence over their sound, but other bands and other artists' sound as well. And I didn't fully appreciate it. I guess I always thought I was a big Foo Fighters fan, but I didn't appreciate it until the 2 tribute concerts came out.
Yeah.
And you started seeing all of the people that were wanting to play at the tribute concert, and then the backstories of everybody that was at the concert, which was very cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was his son, who sat in and played drums for the band. So that it was beautiful and it was impressive, but at the same time, you started to really understand the impact he had. And I think when I started to see that the tribute concerts were being pulled together, I thought, well, there's hope that the band will carry on. Mm-hmm. So that's where I took hope from.
Yeah, he was on stage when you and I saw him at Wrigley Field.
Yes, he was.
That infamous night.
That wonderful night.
That best concert ever is what it's been called in some corners. He had something extra, didn't you think?
Oh, yeah. Whether it was his spandex pants that he wore or
you have some spandex pants like that, don't you?
We'll need to cut that. But he was. Everyone, I think, thinks that Dave is the heart and soul of this of the Foo Fighters, but maybe Taylor was. He might have been the heart of the band. I don't know. It's really hard to say.
You find out if we're calling Dave the nicest guy in rock, which is often a moniker given to him, then Taylor was probably the second nicest guy, is what I hear, because now living in LA and just sort of hearing people talk about randomly seeing him out on hiking trails or mountain biking and stuff like that, he was just a ray of sunlight. It just goes to show you never know what's going on in someone's life, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I do think it's Father's Day, and we ought to appreciate that he was a father, and he was a husband. I just always saw him as a rocker, but after his passing and after the tributes and the past year and a half, you really start to see that this guy was a regular guy. Had maybe a complicated life, like I'm sure a lot of musicians do, but it impacted me, that's for sure.
Do you think that you used a term on your last appearance on the podcast where you said you had no idea that guy was a grunge? Do you think that Taylor Hawkins qualifies as a grunge?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Him and Dave are the grunges.
They are the grunge, but they're the old man grunges, though. That's why I like it, because I'm an old man and I can identify with these two guys. They were still able to get up there and kick it, but you can see that they're getting there. They're
right, especially in the interviews. Some of the interviews with Dave nowadays, where he's not playing music, he's like, wow, he really seems just like an old ass dude.
Right? He seems like a regular old dude. And I can't wait to see him go gray, man.
That's going to be sweet.
That's going to be awesome.
And all that hair of his goes gray.
100%. You should just let it go. Embrace the gray, Dave.
Do you think you'll grow your hair out as long as Dave has?
When I wear my spandex out in public, yes, that's exactly. And I get tattoos. Yes.
That might be your next chapter. Your retirement chapter will be like tatted up, long hair.
When the podcast goes to video, I'm on it.
Oh, okay. He's laying the gauntlet down.
There you go.
That's when we incorporate video into this, then he'll grow his hair out.
Good Lord.
Let's talk about the album itself then a little bit. I didn't quite know what to expect. I didn't quite know if this was going to be a side of Dave and the rest of the guys that I hadn't heard before. But I didn't find myself overly surprised by the sound. I felt like it was very familiar, very comforting. Kind of like, it wasn't that it was expected, but I guess it was just kind of like they're getting right back into it is kind of how it feels.
Yeah.
In terms of sound.
Right. I think if you don't read the lyrics, if you close your eyes, you could almost tell that's the Foo Fighters. It's their same sound. Mm-hmm. It's the highs and the lows. It's the in-betweens. You don't know when a song starts, you think it's just going to be a really slow song, and all of a sudden it just goes to hell and in a handbasket. But that is the Foo Fighters song. But if you look at the lyrics, it's definitely got a message. But I started reflecting on some of their other albums and some of their other messaging that they've had in their songs. And I think there's a lot of consistency about dealing with change and dealing with loss and uncertainty. And so I think it fits. And I had no idea what they would come out with. Some of these songs they'll be able to play in the arenas, I'm sure they'll play in the arenas, but it was a pleasant surprise, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Because what you're referring to with the lyrical content of the album is like, you do feel the grief still really present in him, and I'm assuming the rest of the band too. Yeah,
because I'm not sure when all of these songs were written, but we also have to remember that Taylor died in March, and then that summer, Dave lost his mom. So here you've got two major episodes, I think, a loss of a friend and loss of a parent in a person's life. And, so you could pick any one of these songs that there's a lot of messaging around that. But I don't think that they lost track or derailed. I think it's consistent. I think Taylor would be proud. I think he's probably out there saying this is awesome.
When you think about grief and how we are advised to deal with it, or some you're not advised to deal with it sometimes, I think there's a lot of value, or there can be a lot of value to trying to create a system of consistency for yourself, to give yourself something to hold on to through. And maybe this songwriting process for him it wouldn't surprise me at all if I go read an interview during the press tour for this album, and Dave says, well, this was my grieving process, was to create this new album, channel, for lack of a better term, all the things that I have roiling around inside me into something that would pay tribute. Do you think it's a tribute to them, or do you think it's more about do you think it's more about Dave's experience himself?
I don't see it as a tribute. I think it's more therapy. And I'll just say I can't imagine going through one loss or two losses in such a public manner. When it first happened, and then the tribute concerts, and then having to just go through it and being in the absolute spotlights. But I do think that this is probably the only way that those in the public eye can, they take their craft and they use it to help themselves. You would hope that help themselves through these things. I don't see it as I don't see it as more as much of a tribute to Taylor or his mother, but maybe more of a let's get our feelings out there and let's just work through this. And what I'm jumping forward, and if some
jump
of
around,
these, if some jump,
it's a real loose. This
around.
one's real loose, real groovy. Yeah.
I just can't imagine what it's like to have to. If some of these songs really just tear the band up when they play them, but have to go out and play them all the time. But of course, you could say the same thing about, some of my favorite songs, Walk or These Days, or, some of the others. If they have messaging in them, that's what they do. They get up there in front of all of us, and us fans, we just have this expectation is get up there and put your heart out on the line, and they do it. They have never failed to do that.
I respect the step back that they took during this time before the album came out, because they weren't there after the tribute concerts happened. And listeners, I'm sure you saw some of it. If you got music in your algorithm on social media, I'm sure you saw clips of the tribute concerts that I believe happened in LA and London, right? There were just the two.
Yeah, LA and London.
And they were amazing. They were unlike, even being so far away, you could sort of feel the atmosphere of celebration and this sharing of energy that I haven't seen very often in concerts outside of, religious ceremonies, to be honest with you.
Right.
But I really respect the time that they took to step back and regroup. And now they have the new drummer that they've just named, Josh Freese, who's, he's kicking ass on this album. I do think it's necessary to give yourself the room to be out of the public eye.
Yeah, that's what I like about Foo Fighter fans. The Foo Fighter.
If you don't say so yourself.
the Foo Fighter Nation.
Yeah.
As the global spokesman for the Foo Fighter Nation, we get it. We are a kind and smart and considerate bunch, and I'm hoping that they give the new drummer some time and let him kind of fit into it. Those are enormous spandex pants to fill. That would scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And so I give a lot of credit to Josh and just getting in there and doing his thing. So
when I reflect on the fact that you love this band so much, I think there are multiple angles at which I believe that relationship has been forged. But I think one of them is that they're a very, very professional band. They take their craft very seriously. They take the audience that they serve very seriously. They market themselves really well. They share themselves really well. And that's something that I kind of, in your work and in the stuff the activities I see you do, the things you involve yourself with, there's a professionalism that I think you share with Dave.
Well, that's a huge compliment. I appreciate it. But I do like the consistency of the Foo Fighters. They've dabbled in video and in movies and what have you, but they always come back to center. They love doing what they're doing. They don't take themselves too seriously.
Nope.
And some of the quieter members are mainstays that you just, Pat, for instance, you can always expect to see a smile on his face. So I do appreciate the consistency. Feels like they know they have a responsibility to the world to bring us wonderful music, and they're not shy about it. And I think they're a band of all time. I know we're talking about albums that go to 11, but I think at some point you and Michael should talk about bands that go to 11, and they would certainly be at the top of my list. And I think one of the things is consistency and dedication to the craft. And Foo Fighters has stayed with it. Obviously through a lot of turmoil. And I think that's a hallmark of staying true to what you do.
And it can't be discounted. It can't be discounted the other major public loss that Dave had in his life when Kurt Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
He had a different profile at that point, Dave did, as the drummer for Nirvana. But when you have to process loss in this very public way, there's a lot that we as an audience can learn from that. That leads me to like this what if that would have been the end of Foo Fighters. And maybe we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but how do you think you would have felt if we would have gotten a statement at some point from Dave and the guys that said, this one's really rocked us, and we're going to take this as a sign that maybe it's our time to move on to different projects? And
I think I would have been okay with it, but that's easy for me to say because they're still rocking, and there's some great jams on this album. There's some awesome songs already that I think people are picking up on. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that Dave has had his daughter start integrating into this, a tribute to Father's Day. Dave is bringing Violet in.
Yeah, she's so good too. Her voice is amazing.
She's highly talented.
She's on Show Me How. If you have not yet listened to the album, then the female singer you hear on that song is Violet Grohl, and she appeared in both tribute concerts to Taylor, I believe. Here's a question for you, Dad. Do you know who Phoebe Bridgers is?
Phoebe Bridgers.
This isn't a trick question. I'm just curious to know.
I've heard the name.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, fair enough. So Phoebe Bridgers, very, very popular artist right now. I definitely did think at first, when I heard this song, when I heard Show Me How, that I thought it was Phoebe Bridgers back there. Maybe this is just a testament to me not knowing Phoebe Bridgers' voice all that well, but there was a quality to her contribution to Show Me How that felt very akin to Phoebe's sound. I'll share a few of her albums with her. I think you'd dig it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's cool to think that Violet could, start to establish her own musical voice, and we'd expect no less from her, really, would we?
Maybe we'll see Violet heading up a band.
I love that. Yeah.
And Taylor's son on drums.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
this is a little what if that I like.
Foo Fighters 2.0.
Oh, they could do a better name than that
for these for the youngsters out there.
Yeah. Well, that would be. I don't know what that would sound like, but I would listen to it.
Who knows?
Back on the lyrics themselves, what I find interesting about this is that it is a Foo Fighters album about grief. In that, it's all about beginning again, dancing in the light. It's totally on brand.
Yeah.
Right. There's always been this quality of hope. I can see how anyone can put themselves into these songs, but the way that the music and the lyrics meet still serves to lift the listener, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Yeah, the Foo Fighters songs, if you listen to them really, really well, are all about pulling yourself up, holding your head up high, shaking it off and moving on. And just, it's okay to be questioning why things happened. I hear voices, but it's not your voice. And, some of the lyrics that you hear out of this one, my hope is that all of us who go through these periods of loss or struggle, that the message from these songs will help somebody. And you'll be sitting in your car and you might be pretty down, but you hear a song and all of a sudden you're pounding on the steering wheel because you feel a little bit more energized, and you're like, all right, damn it, I'm going to just get on with this day. And so there's as with all Foo Fighters music for me, there's a underlying tone of, I'll say, anger or edge, that you can say this issue has just pissed me off, and now I'm going to fight it. So I love that. I love that about this album and all their previous albums of it's okay to go through what you're going through, but by golly, I'm going to pull myself up and I'm going to get through it.
Yeah. You've been on the pod. You've listened to every episode of the pod.
Yeah.
You know that we have this standout track thing that we do.
Right.
And you told me what your standout track is. Mm-hmm. Can you tell the listeners what you have chosen as your standout track from, but here we are.
Under You.
Second song in the album.
Yep.
Interesting. I feel like we don't get a lot of second songs on the album as standout tracks. Why did this one stand out to you?
It just, the first song, obviously, of any album, it's your go-to.
Yeah.
But I think when I started listening to this, it could have been any member in the band, but obviously it feels like Dave is is talking to Taylor and talking about, I still feel like he's under this weight. He's under this this heavy blanket that he can't get out of. And I think it's a great message. I love the riffs in it. It's just one of the most badass. To me, I said, all right, that's Foo Fighters. Yep, that's Foo Fighters. And
that was the moment.
Yeah.
And so this, just to share a little bit of the chorus here. There are times that I need someone. There are times that I feel like no one. Sometimes I just don't know what to do. There are days I can't remember. There are days that last forever. Someday I'll come out from under you. Out from under you.
That's the line I like.
Someday I'll come out from under you.
Someday I'll come out from under you. To me, it says to all of us, okay, I know I'll get past this. My little sister says sometimes the one goal for the day is you just have to get out of bed and take a shower. And then that's your goal. And then your next goal. So on this one, someday I'll get out from under you. Yeah. I love that.
It's a really, really useful image for grief, because to feel so pressed down and to feel so like you can't stand. There's a pre-chorus, a couple lines here where he says, over it. I think I'm getting over it, but there's no getting over it.
Right.
That there won't be a time when you have fully figured out how to carry this thing.
Yeah.
Or you won't ever fully process it. Maybe there'll always be some little bit that you're working on. Maybe.
Yeah. I think it comes back in little snippets and waves. You think you're past it and you think, okay, I've got a good handle on this. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you'll hear a song, you'll see something, you'll have a smell, and that will bring back a memory of that person. We all deal with the potential of losing people in our lives. And when some of my family members talk about, we need to appreciate the good times, and because the sad times will come, but let's focus on the good times now. Let's focus on what is the positive. And Tyler obviously knows this, but the podcast listeners, my parents are 92 years old. Tyler's grandparents are 92 years old, and they're getting to a point where they're not of greatest health. And we know that at some point that their road will come to an end. And I think to myself, while that's sad and it's a big struggle right now, I also think, well, I'm a 56-year-old guy, and I've got my parents, and that's a beautiful thing. And
it's huge,
and
I'm
a
30-year-old guy who's been able to live so much of my life with both of my grandparents, and knowing that right now is the time to still celebrate that we can be present with each other has been huge. Especially as you experience more instances of loss in your life. Yeah. You know what it's going to feel like, or you have an idea of what it's going to feel like. You feel like you can prepare, but you never really fully can prepare for something like that.
No, you can't. But I'm taking lessons from this to say, okay, well, how do I want to be an older person as I get older? Sure, as I get, as I want to be a cool 92-year-old.
You're going to be great.
Oh, I'll still be.
You'll be all tatted up. Yeah.
I'll be in spandex. I'll be in the assisted living facility in spandex, listening to Foo Fighters, and I might have a tattoo.
I hope so. We'll get one together.
It's good lessons. And I think I've watched Dave Grohl and this band to say, okay, how do you deal with loss? This is awesome. It's an album about grief, but I also think it's about an album about how to get through things. And I love that. I love that message around.
They're awesome because they are relentless. They will keep going, and in whatever form it is. And I trust that. And it's a very comforting thought to me. And even if they do evolve, even if this is the last album, there is a consistency, a determination that I'm greatly inspired by. They've got something figured out.
What I'm really excited about, knock on wood, is the album that comes out after this.
Yeah.
Because
then it's not just your identity. Then the grief isn't just, it's not you.
Yeah.
You aren't your grief.
Right. The next album, I'm wondering if it's going to be a pissed off Dave. Is it going to be a melancholy Dave?
Right.
What's this edginess that's going to be? So that's the exciting thing about watching them and their concerts. Who are they going to have with them?
Where are we going to see them next?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Maybe it'll be like Wembley.
We'll have to.
Maybe we'll go to London.
Second best concert ever.
Yes. Well, I think we'll leave our listeners there. This is an absolute. I don't think this album has been out long enough to determine whether it goes to 11. We need a little more context.
Right.
We need to sit with it a little bit more. I wanted to do this with you because this is a special time in our lives, and if there's anything that I have taken from this album is that we shouldn't pass up any opportunity to do some fun shit with the people that we love. And I love talking about Foo Fighters with you. I'm grateful it's a thing we share, Dad.
Yeah, me too, Tyler.
You're the man.
Yeah, you're the man.
So should we play them out on your standout track, Under You?
Yeah, do it.
Happy Father's Day, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us through season 4. You can bet that my dad will be back on the podcast at some point. Hope you all have a great summer. Follow us on social media and take care of yourselves. You know, if you're going through something and you feel low, I hope to find the little things that are gonna keep you going, like an album like this or hanging out with your dad, somebody that you love. So much love, everybody. Here is Under You. Have a great week.